So today's debate, our first debate, will be between the Holy Spirit Catholic School and the St. Patrick Catholic School. The proposition, the Holy Spirit Catholic School, I invite you to come up on stage. Nalani Cyrus, Rashad Baptiste, and Daniel Lindor. The opposition, St. Patrick Catholic School, we invite you to come up. Aya Chitaman, Anila Philip, Rikel Simon. The mood for today's debate, considering the importance of youth engagement in politics and the decision-making process, be it resolved that the voting age be lowered to 16. Considering the importance of youth engagement in politics and the decision-making process, be it resolved that the voting age be lowered to 16. Are our judges ready? Debaters, you ready to go? I now invite the first speaker of the proposition, Ms. Nilani Cyrus. Please give her a round of applause.
Timothy chapter 4 verse 12 says, and I quote, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young," unquote. Youths are the lifeblood for our community. They bring vitality and a fresh perspective to our communities. Their enthusiasm and energy can be harnessed to spread knowledge, hope, and save others in powerful ways. They are not just the future, they are the future. Considering the importance of youth engagement in politics and decision-making, be it resolved that the legal age of voting be lowered to 16. Honorable judges, Madam Chairperson, esteemed timekeepers, opponents, colleagues, audience, all, a pleasant good afternoon. Our assignment here today is to show you that our proposal is the only one that makes sense. We will give definitions of key terms, supporting points and evidence, and refute alternative concepts and suggestions made by our opponents. The definitions of our key terms will help illuminate our position. According to Oxford Languages, importance means, and I quote, "the state or fact of being of great significance," unquote. Engagement, according to Cambridge Dictionary, means, and I quote, "the process of encouraging persons to be interested in the work of an organization," unquote. Youth, according to Oxford Languages, means, and I quote, "the period between childhood and adulthood," unquote. According to Britannica Dictionary, politics means, and I quote, "activities that relate to influencing the policies and actions of a government or getting and keeping power in a government," unquote. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, legal age is, and I quote, "the age at which a person becomes entitled under the law to engage in a particular activity or becomes responsible for a particular act," unquote. And to vote, according to Cambridge Dictionary, means, and I quote, "the activity of choosing someone or something in an election." In Grenada, there's a disparity in the trust that's extended to our young persons. We are given permission to drink, vote, and hold a valid driver's license at 18, but we can give consent at the age of 16. We can give consent to have sex, Madam Chairperson, at the age of 16. The ability to give consent at the age of 16 consequently means the right to start a family. A family is the cornerstone of every country. So how is it that we entrust a 16-year-old with the decision to start a family, the most important thread in the fabric of building society, but we don't trust them with the responsibility to determine those that make decisions that impact the same families they're entrusted to start? Hypocrisy at the highest level. In an article published by Fair Vote, it was discovered that at first glance, many assume that 16-year-olds are able to make mature and informed decisions about voting, that they will not turn out to vote or that they will vote the way their parents tell them to. However, all three assumptions are untrue and should not be a reason to keep local governments from extending the voting rights to 16-year-olds. Extending voting rights is consistent with the fact that turning 16 has a special significance. We can pay taxes, be gainfully employed, and pay NIS, and of course, give consent. In 2015, our government took an initiative to engage youths in discussions and participate in decisions that affected them for three reasons. One, to give young persons from the age of 16 ownership of decision-making processes and allow them an opportunity to become active stakeholders in laws and decisions that affected their lives. Two, there is a significant percentage dwindling in community engagements and activities, and this was taken to spark and revitalize interest in community. Three, politics is often viewed as a white elephant, and the process was intended to aid in improving knowledge and tailor a view of politics and give concrete and real-life connections by showing that politics is simply a difference of beliefs and opinions which exist in everyday life. This will help them know how to coexist despite different perspectives. Our current administration then took it one step further to restructure and involve youths even younger in the process by including primary and secondary level students. We cannot vote to elect youth MPs, Madam Chairperson. They saw it necessary to bridge the gap between youth and their policymakers. Lowering the voting age will surely show us that you trust us to say who has the best plans for our future. Numerous experts assert that 16-year-olds have sufficient cognitive and critical thinking capacities to make political decisions independently. The Convention on the Rights of the Child recognizes that children have civil and political rights and has repeatedly stated that as their capacities evolve, children are entitled to higher levels of responsibility, agency, and autonomy in the exercise of their rights. Madam Speaker, once we make the sensible decision to lower our voting age, all we need is structures in place to guide that process, an initiative we have already undertaken. So I ask again, Madam Chairperson, if we could make a child at 16, then why can't we cast a vote? My second speaker will continue our argument. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nilani Cyrus. We now call the first speaker of the opposition, Ms. Maya Chitaman, to the podium.
As Emma's 18th birthday approached, she was thrilled to vote in her first election. For weeks, she researched candidates and engaged in lively discussions with friends, realizing the weight of her choices. Her vote could shape the future. Looking back, she recognized how much her perspective had changed. Emma's experience highlights her voting age is set at 18. It's a crucial time when young adults begin to grasp their civic responsibility. Good afternoon to Madam Chair, diligent timekeepers, respected judges, the proposition team, and everyone present. Madam Chair, we stand unshakably against the motion. Considering the importance of youth engagement in politics and the decision-making process, be it resolved that voting age should be lowered to 16. Before presenting our arguments, the key terms in the Moot must be defined. According to the actforyou.com, youth engagement happens when young people participate in meaningful opportunities and roles that allow them to build on their strengths. Collins Dictionary defines politics as the activities concerned with achieving and using power in a country. The voting age, as it relates to the Grenadian context, is 18. As the first speaker, I will discuss two compelling reasons why the voting age should remain at 18. I will argue that 16-year-olds typically lack the physical and psychological maturity needed to vote. Our second speaker will reinforce our stance by debating the following points. 1. Lowering the voting age will exacerbate an already low youth voter turnout. 2. 16-year-olds lack the crucial knowledge and experience needed to vote. And 3. 16-year-olds are vulnerable to manipulation. Lastly, our rebuttal will effectively summarize our key points and skillfully counter the opposition's arguments. Before I outline the arguments supporting our position on the Moot, I want to emphasize our acknowledgement of the importance of youth engagement in politics and decision-making. Nevertheless, we strongly advocate against lowering the voting age. As adolescents already have effective ways to participate, such as helping others find reliable election information and supporting discussions at school about elections. Madam Chair, a pivotal concern surrounding youth participation in elections is maturity. Are 16-year-olds truly equipped to make decisions that will shape the future of our nation? To evaluate this, we must consider both the physical and psychological aspects of maturity. While it may be a contentious point, research shows that a 16-year-old's brain is generally not ready for the responsibility of voting. Madam Chair, allow me to pose a question to adults in the audience. How many regrettable decisions can you recall making in your youth? With time and experience, I'm sure you learned from those mistakes. The reason for this learning curve lies in the prefrontal cortex, the brain center for reasoning and decision making. According to Dr. Angeline Stanislaus, the Chief Medical Officer for the Missouri Department of Mental Health, this does not fully mature until approximately age 25. This suggests that allowing voting at 18 is already a gamble. Do we really want to increase this risk by allowing even younger individuals to vote? In all, it is clear that 16-year-olds are not physically ready to make such a momentous decision. Now, let us look at the other side of the coin, the psychological factor. Madam Chair, most children at 16 are generally not mentally nor emotionally ready to vote. This was supported by 2023 research that investigated the executive function in 10,000 8 to 35-year-olds. According to researchers, executive function is a set of mental skills that include the ability to plan, resist tempting distractions, and focus. These skills are needed for major decision making like voting. The research found that the development reached adult level performances by ages 18 to 20. Similar sentiments were expressed by Mr. Arthur Pierre, the election supervisor for Grenada. He informed that 18 is considered young adulthood. The issue of voting is considered an adult right, hence the term adult suffrage. So you see, Madam Chair, most 16-year-olds are not psychologically ready to make life-altering decisions like voting. In closing, I reaffirm our stance that while youth involvement in elections is essential, the voting age should remain at 18. Most 16-year-olds are not yet physically nor psychologically equipped to make crucial decisions like voting. So allowing them 2 more years to mature is wise. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maya Chisaman of the St. Patrick Catholic School. While we wait on the judges to deliberate, is everyone in the audience excited for the finals? Yes? Do we have any upcoming debaters in the audience? Are you interested? Yes? That's good. Ready, judges? I now call the second speaker of the proposition, Mr. Rashad Baptiste of the Holy Spirit Catholic School. Let's give him a round of applause.
It is important that space is made for our youth. We need to have a seat on the table. Civic engagement is a core democracy, and youth should be a part of it. A quote by Zane Bastard. Studied on protocol already established. Good afternoon. I'm proud to continue to educate you on all approaches as to why we should lower the voting age to 16 and to highlight and correct the misconceptions that exist about our youth by giving some vital information and statistics. Madam Chair, the mere fact that we don't just some important decisions, but not others, seeks to further confuse and increase the lack of interest of our youth in politics. In an article published by UMass, it says, and I quote, "We are witnessing a growing disconnect between youth and their governments. Too many young people are losing faith in democracy and do not trust their leaders and institutions. In democracies, it is more vital than ever to reach out to youth." Unquote. This means no more we engage them and make them a part of the process, no more they will show interest in the policy making of the future. www.youthforum.com says, but the Scottish referendum in 2014 And the national elections in Austria 2030 shows that voter turnout among 16 and 17-year-olds were actually higher than the turnout among 18 to 24-year-olds. In Scotland, 16 to 17-year-olds were better informed than their peers in the rest of the UK because getting the right to vote sparked their interest in politics. In a democratic society where voting is considered a fundamental right, it begs us to ask the following questions. What is democracy without trust? By including 16 and 17-year-olds in the democratic process, decision makers can stand in trust and show that their voices matter. What is democracy without inclusion? The lack of representation further alienates younger people from politicians. Lowering the age is a step towards ensuring that all perspectives are presented in the decision-making process. We must evolve to meet the needs of modern societies and also seek to embrace our youth as responsible citizens and prepare them to lead their societies in accordance with universal human rights. In countries such as Argentina, Cuba, Brazil, Austria, Ecuador, and Germany, they all have voting ages under 18, and the government and social stability is no different than other countries, where voting age is 18 and above, and in some instances, it's even better. Madam Chairperson, we ask again, if we can be responsible enough to satisfy me at 16, why can't we vote? Let me highlight some of the pros of lowering the voting age. 1. Decisions impact youth directly. Many laws and policies directly impact young people's lives and future. Lowering the voting age gives them a say in influencing those decisions because they feel the consequences of decisions made today longer than the older generations. 2. Increase political engagement among young people. By extending voting rights to young adults, we tap into a diverse and important demographic that perspectives and experiences bring fresh ideas and innovative solutions to the table, revitalizing our political landscape. 3. Encouraging civic education and responsibility. Granting voting rights at an early age fosters active citizenship from an early stage. It cultivates a sense of responsibility, encouraging young individuals to stay informed, participate in public debates, and ultimately develop a lifelong habit of political engagement. Our opponents may say that we are not mature, but how do we justify the right to give consent, but not to vote? Our time is now. Give us the right to vote at 16. Our rebuttal speaker will take the final leg to convince you that the voting age should be lowered to 16. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rashad Baptiste. As we wait on the judges, audience, let's interact a bit. This is for the students. If you drop a yellow hat in the Red Sea, what does it become? If you drop a yellow hat into the Red Sea, what does it become? Yes. Yes, very good. We now have the second debater from the St. Patrick's Catholic School, Miss Anelia Philip. Anelia Philip, I apologize. Let's give her a round of applause.
In Grenada, to drive, one needs to be 18. To get married, one needs to be 18. To buy a lottery ticket, one needs to be 18. 18 is a universal age when citizens make decisions. So why do we want them to vote at 16? Madam Chair, timekeepers, judges, the proposition team, audience, good afternoon. Madam Chair, allow me to entertain the proposition stance of lowering the voting age for a while. During our interview with Mr. Pierre, he explained that to decrease the voting age, a bill must pass in Parliament. This includes several steps. A member of the House of Representatives must propose the bill. Each member debates the strengths and weaknesses of the bill. A committee studies the bill and makes recommendations to the House. The bill is again debated and voted on. The Senate debates, amends, and votes on the bill. Finally, the Governor General must grant royal assent so the bill can become law. Madam Chair, this is a drawn-out process. Now, here's the shocker. Ready? This process has little return since many young people still do not participate in elections. World statistics reveal this troubling trend. Only 51 and 55% of US and UK citizens aged 18 to 24 respectively voted in the last elections. Also, according to the 2015 European Youth Forum report, within the 28 member states, almost 60% of voters between 18 and 24 years old opted not to vote in the country's most recent election. Lowering the voting age to 16 could worsen this trend, as younger individuals tend to engage even less in civic duties. In essence, changing the voting age involves considerable effort and time, with minimal increase in voter turnout. Madam Chair, another compelling reason to restrict voting to those 18 and over is the lack of life experience amongst younger citizens. Voting is a serious civic duty, and it is best understood by those directly affected, primarily adults. How can 16-year-olds make sound decisions for the broader community? A typical teenager is unlikely to invest the time and effort to understand and evaluate different political policies. Let us consider economic policies, which may determine the result of an election. 16-year-olds are often not in the workforce and do not bear responsibilities of paying bills or taxes. So how can they possibly make informed choices about critical issues like taxes or inflation? Madam Chair, keeping the voting age at 18 ensures that we empower those who comprehend the stakes involved and can contribute meaningfully to our democracy. Finally, our opponents must recognize that many 16-year-olds are vulnerable to manipulation. Madam Chair, as we know in Grenada, political parties can be passed on like property. Young voters who dare to break from their family's voting pattern risk facing backlash or even disownment. Beyond the influence of parents, politicians actively seek to sway these impressionable voters. Mark Engler, in an article named "Should We Lower the Voting Age to 16?" stated that political groups with more liberal ideologies may advocate for lowering the voting age, knowing that younger voters often resonate with non-traditional beliefs. Such a move could ultimately ensure a loyal voting base for them at the expense of a truly informed electorate. For this reason, Madam Chair, the voting age should remain at 18. As we close, we caution the proposition. While lowering the voting age may sound appealing, its effects can be irreversible. This is a lengthy process with limited benefits, as 16-year-olds often lack the experience to make informed choices and may be more helpless to manipulation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Amelia Philip. As you wait on the judges, I will tell you a fun fact this time. So a fun fact, most people cannot lick their elbows. Y'all trying it? Can you do it? No? Another one, you cannot sneeze with your eyes open. You can do it? You can sneeze with your eyes open? Okay. As we go into the rebuttal segment, we now call the rebuttal speaker for the opposition, Ms. Rachel Simon.
If we wouldn't trust a 16-year-old to drive a car or sign a legal contract, how can we justify trusting them with the responsibility of voting on issues that will shape our society? A pleasant afternoon to all. Madam Chair, we stand unwaveringly against the motion, considering the importance of youth engagement in politics and the decision-making process. Be it resolved that the voting age should be lowered to 16. Our first speaker launched our case when she debated with fervent conviction that most 16-year-olds are not ready to vote because they are not physically or psychologically mature to do so. Our second speaker kept the momentum going when she argued that 1. Lowering the voting age would magnify an already low voter turnout. 2. 16-year-olds lack the vital knowledge and experience needed to vote. And 3, they are vulnerable to manipulation by external influences. As noted by our first speaker, our team wants to highlight our recognition of the vital role that youth engagement plays in politics and decision making. However, we need to realize that 16-year-olds are already represented by their parents. The parents should be the ones who decide what is best for them until they reach the legal age to do the same. Madam Chair, we observed that the proposition argued that lowering the voting age would boost voter turnout and enhance citizens' engagement. However, as our second speaker highlighted, the evidence suggests otherwise. In fact, reducing the voting age may not lead to an increased turnout, as younger individuals often participate at lower rates. Pursuing this change may prove to be an inefficient use of resources, yielding minimal benefits and detracting from more impactful reforms. Madam Chair, our proponents argue that most 16-year-olds are just as knowledgeable as 18-year-olds. However, as our first speaker said, the prefrontal cortex only develops at age 25. A 16-year-old is not close to this age. Madam Chair, a line has to be drawn somewhere. If we give 16-year-olds a chance now, how long will it be before we involve 14 and 12-year-olds? As we close, we know that the proposition is swayed and now agrees that the voting age should remain at 18. Madam Chair, we propose prioritization of meaningful reforms that will genuinely encourage participation, rather than simply lowering the voting age for its own sake. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. I have a next reader for the audience. Y'all ready? How many months of the year has 28 days? No? All of them. Does all of them have 28 days? Yes. Yes. So now we call the rebuttal speaker of the Chantemere Holy Spirit Catholic School, Mr. Daniel Lendo.
Young people, when informed and empowered, when they realize that what they do truly makes a difference, can indeed change the world. Jane Goddard, standing on protocol area established in our following. Madam Chairperson, as I take on the final leg of this debate, I ask you to carefully ponder upon these questions. Can there be true democracy without trust? Can we have true democracy without inclusion? We stand unwavered that the voting age be lowered to 16, considering the importance of youth engagement in politics and decision making. My opponent stated that 16-year-olds are generally not responsible for voting. However, we stand resolute that if we are responsible enough to start a family, then we are responsible enough to vote. My opponent also stated that there are minimum voting turnouts among 16-year-olds. However, we maintain that research in some countries shows that the voter turnout was even better among 16-year-olds. Lowering the voting age to 16 is a valuable step in the right direction. As my first speaker stated, in 2015, the government saw it absolutely necessary to engage youth in discussions on matters that directly affect them. Our current administration went even further to restructure this initiative to include primary and secondary schools. Moreover, my second speaker emphasized that lowering the voting age to 16 ensures that we the youth have a part to play in influencing the decision-making process in matters that especially affect us directly. Furthermore, this gives way to increased political engagement among young people and encourage civic education and responsibility. If our citizens can work, pay taxes, and NIS, and give consent to sex, which can result to starting a family. Why should youth at the age of 16 not be allowed to vote? Madam Chairperson, lowering the voting age to 16 is a sure way of showing our young people that we trust them to say what's the best plans for their future. Instead of looking at us as just numbers in the job market, look at us as young minds with the potential of changing the world for better. We rest our case.
Thank you. We say thank you to all the debaters here for the first session. Let's give them a round of applause. Debaters, stand.